The command hall of the sovereign flagship trembled as the alien queen strode across its silver floor. Her towering form cast sharp shadows against the glowing walls. Every warrior in the chamber knelt as she entered, their heads bowed and their voices silent. Her armor, a sacred suit forged from a rare alloy, shimmered with strange marks across its surface. The queen stopped in the center of the hall and raised one of her clawed gauntlets. The mark on the armor glowed faint blue. She stared at it as if insulted by its presence. She inhaled once, sharp and deep, and her voice thundered across the hall. "Who repaired my armor?" Her roar shook the banners along the wall. None dared to speak. Her court of guards, elders, and artificers lowered their eyes. They had no answer. For the queen, her armor was not just metal. It represented her lineage and her right to rule. No one had permission to touch it unless she commanded it. Yet someone had repaired a fracture on the shoulder plate and reinforced the inner frame. Worse, the craftsmanship was unlike anything her people created. It was delicate yet strong, subtle yet effective, brilliant yet humble. She roared again, louder than before. "Who repaired my armor?" Silence followed. Through that silence came a single voice at last. It was small, plain, and human. "I did." The voice came from the far corner of the hall. The guards shifted uneasily. The queen slowly turned. Standing near the wall, holding a small toolkit at his side, was the lone human engineer assigned to the lower decks. His name was Tom. He was the only human on the ship, and he stood now with his shoulders pulled back, his eyes steady, his breathing controlled. Tom stepped forward. Every alien warrior tensed as he passed. None expected a human to exist within the core of the flagship, let alone to interrupt the queen's command. Tom walked until he stood before her throne platform. The queen leaned down slightly, her towering frame dwarfing him. "You dare touch what belongs only to the throne god." Tom spoke calmly. "It was damaged. I fixed it." Her eyes glowed with a cold fire. "And you thought that gave you the right." Tom's voice remained steady. "If that damage had spread, the armor would have failed the next time you entered battle." The fracture lines were growing. The inner support beam was bent. The sealant had begun to peel. You would have been vulnerable. I could not ignore that. Every alien in the hall watched him with disbelief. A human had spoken as if the queen were simply another officer. Not with disrespect, but with simple honesty. The queen studied him. Her deep violet eyes narrowed. She expected fear. She found none. This puzzled her more than the armor mark itself. "Why do you speak without trembling?" "Human. Because the truth doesn't shake." Tom answered. The hall froze. Guards tightened their grips on their spears. The queen's eyes widened for a moment, then narrowed again. "Explain the method you used." Human. Tom nodded once. "I used micro welds and reinforced the frame with a flexible support strip. Your alloys are strong but brittle when struck at certain angles. I changed the internal tension so it spreads impact differently. The fracture won't return." The queen stared at him with silent intensity. No one had spoken to her in such a simple, unpolished manner in many cycles. His words held no attempt to flatter or please. They were simply facts. She found them strangely refreshing. "You altered the royal armor. You admit this freely." Tom nodded again. "Yes. You know this act can be punished." "I know. Yet you did it anyway." "Yes." Her tail thumped against the hard floor. A ripple passed through the hall. "Now tell me why." Tom exhaled softly. "Because I'm an engineer. Something broken stays in my head until I fix it. I can't leave damage as it is." "I never could. Not on human ships. Not on yours. It doesn't matter who owns the armor. If something is going to fail, I fix it." The queen expected excuses or flattery, but he offered none. Only this plain explanation. She turned and walked toward her throne. The entire hall moved with her. She sat upon the high seat and faced the human again. Tom stepped forward. He obeyed and climbed the short steps to the platform. His boots echoed in the vast hall. When he reached the top, the queen stood again. She was so tall that Tom had to tilt his head far back to meet her gaze. You speak truth. And truth carries weight. She raised her repaired shoulder plate for all to see. The faint mark glowed again. This work. It is unlike anything of my court. Tom nodded. Yes, I used human technique. More flexible. More forgiving. The queen circled him once, slow and deliberate. He stood still. He sensed no threat from her movement, only evaluation. You repaired this armor with no command, no request, and no expectation of reward. Tom answered simply. Correct. She stopped behind him. You risked your own life by doing so. I know. And you acted alone. Yes. After a long silence, the queen spoke again. Then tell me this. Why would a human risk so much for someone not of his kind? Tom waited a heartbeat. Because people depend on you. If you fall, this ship becomes chaos. Your people follow you. Your enemies fear you. And your decisions shape all of them. I don't want the ship to fall apart. I don't want more battle damage than necessary. If something can be made safer for everyone, I do it. You choose to help all. Even when none help you. Tom gave a faint nod. That's how it works. The job matters. The person doesn't. The room murmured in shock. The idea that a simple human would treat the queen as simply another responsibility stunned the court. The queen stepped in front of him again. She leaned down close. Her breath was warm against the air. Human Tom. You think the person does not matter? Tom shook his head. I think everyone matters. But the work comes first. That is how I understand things. The queen rose to full height. She lifted her arm and examined the repaired piece again. The hall lights reflected off the smooth metal in all the cycles of my rule. None have touched this armor without being commanded. None dared. None imagined they could improve it. Tom spoke softly, but clearly. I didn't think about permission. I thought about the fracture. The queen laughed, a low rumble that echoed across the chamber. The guard stiffened at the sound, unsure if it meant danger or amusement. Her expression relaxed slightly, though her authority remained firm. Human Tom. I will ask you one question. Answer carefully. Do you believe you could improve the entire armor if commanded? Tom looked at the suit, thoughtfully. Yes. A heavy silence filled the hall. The queen stared at him with a strange, unreadable expression. She did not often encounter beings who answered her with pure certainty. Many feared to promise what they could not provide. Tom did not fear such things. Why do you answer so confidently? Because I know my work. And because I saw flaws in the joints, the tension lines, and the inner seals. It can be made better. Better. Yes, much better. The queen lifted her chin. Then you believe a human can enhance the royal armor. Tom nodded. I believe so. She lowered herself back into her throne. Her gaze sharpened. Her tail curled to the side as she considered him. Human Tom. Step closer. He obeyed. He stood within arm's reach of her throne. She pointed to him. You will serve as chief artisan for my personal armor from this moment. No other hands will touch it. You alone will maintain it. A murmur of shock filled the hall. Assigning a human engineer to the queen's armor was unthinkable. Yet none dared to challenge her decree. Tom bowed his head slightly. Thank you. I will do my best. The queen looked at him with a slow nod. You repaired a fracture with skill beyond my court. That earns respect. But understand this clearly. If you fail, consequences will follow. Tom raised his eyes. I know. And I won't fail. The Queen sensed no arrogance in his voice. Only conviction. After that day, Tom's life changed. He was granted access to the Royal Forge, a chamber filled with ancient tools and living metals. The forge workers watched him with curiosity. They expected him to make mistakes. But as days passed, their attitude shifted to respect. Tom worked with calm focus. He studied each joint and seam of the Queen's armor. He added reinforcement to the inner plates and adjusted the energy lines. His designs blended human flexibility with alien strength. The armor changed. It became lighter, stronger, more responsive. When Tom finished the final modification, the Queen summoned him to the training hall. It was a vast arena filled with floating stones and shifting platforms. She wore her newly improved armor and stepped into the center. She moved with a grace that stunned even her own warriors. The armor responded to her every motion with perfect timing. Impacts that once rang sharply now dissolved across the frame. She stopped and looked at Tom. This is superior to anything made before, she said. You have done what no artisan of my people has managed. Tom smiled faintly. Thank you. The Queen approached him. She towered above him as always, yet now her gaze held a softer edge. Human Tom, you changed what I wear into something new. Stronger, smarter. You did it not because of duty alone, but because you believe in the value of repair. And because you care for the lives tied to this ship. Tom nodded. That is correct. She folded her arms. Tell me, why do humans repair so much? Why do you rebuild instead of discard? Tom thought for a moment, then answered. Because repair is hope. Repair means something broken can be whole again. People are like that too. It's what my people believe. Nothing stays ruined if someone is willing to fix it. The Queen stared at him for a long time. His words were simple, yet they carried weight she could not ignore. From that day on, she treated him differently. She valued his insight. She called upon him not only to fix her armor, but to improve other systems. Engie,